From turnstile to turnstile, let's talk theme parks.
Welcome to Park Hopper Podcast. Welcome back to another episode. My name is Dominic Giefko. We are here with the one and only Peter the Brookhart. Peter Brookhart. That's who we're here with.
I dig that. I appreciate that name.
Yeah.
If we can make that a thing, I like it.
Yeah, I dig it. We got a very exciting episode today. Peter and Sarah just visited a very foreign place to them, and we'll get all into that. But before we do that, we need to get into some housekeeping things. First off, go follow Peter and Sarah Brookhart at the Brookhart Project on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And you can go also follow myself and my girlfriend Victoria on YouTube at Dom and Vic and on Instagram at Dom and Vic Eats Detroit.
I dig it. And then, of course, you can't forget our Patreon, which is our exclusive content organization. You get fun photos, early access to podcasts, access to mini podcasts, and some ride-through events. I even have, right here, a testimonial from a good friend of ours, Brooke. Don, did you see this come into our mailbox the other day?
I did not.
Yeah, so this is from our good friend Brooke. I used to work with her in Chicago. She is a fellow Michiganier. But we are, a few weeks into spring here, and it's still snowing up north in where Dominic lives and my good friend Brooke. Is that right? How do you feel about this, Dom? The snow.
The Michigan weather? I mean, you already know how I feel about it. I can't stand it. Like, literally drives me insane.
I get Dom on the phone, and it just sounds like I need to like buy him a one-way ticket to Barbados or something. He sounds miserable.
I mean, wouldn't mind Barbados, but we all know where I want to be. And actually, speaking of that, that's Orlando.
Houston, Texas?
Texas? No, and I'll finish this comment after.
We record?
After you finish your theme park
It's
testimonial.
it's a quick good one from our good friend Brooke. Brooke, Thanks for sending this our way. You are the best. I can't wait to when yours and Mark's next visit down here. It's always a pleasure. And so she said, "Hey guys, I have a story I'd like to share from my trip to Disneyland, specifically Mickey's Halloween party this past September. I tend to go to Disneyland alone, so during the party I spent a lot of the night enjoying the costumes and rides. I also like to do that. At one point, I was walking around near Indiana Jones ride and saw that there was a 10-minute wait, which is ridiculous. So obviously I had Disneyland. So obviously I had to go. The entire quote-unquote wait was actually just walking through the queue. There weren't many people in front of me and weren't any people behind me that I could see. I got to the loading area and the people who were in front of me occupied the remaining seats in the car that was being loaded. So I was standing in line alone, waiting for more people. The car that was full pulled away on the left side and there was an empty car on the right. I was told I could pick my row, my seat, and as I sat down, another car pulled up on the opposite side. There still wasn't anyone behind me in line, so rather than having me wait, they moved my car along with only me inside, and I rode Indiana Jones in my own personal vehicle. That's insane.
Wow.
And then she put on there, I don't think I'll ever be lucky enough to have this happen to me again. It was truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I am so glad that the timing worked out perfectly. This is one of my favorite Disneyland rides, so getting to ride it alone was something I'll remember forever. Brooke?
Well, that is awesome,
That's
Brooke.
insane. And I'm super... I can't believe you never told me that story beforehand, so I'm kind of upset.
Because she knew she was going to say it for a theme park testimonial.
There you go.
Can I give a little testimonial? Because it kind of... So this nothing to do with the ride, but an experience that I've had where I was completely alone, and it'll never happen again. And you already know this story.
Okay. Yeah,
Peter?
I think I know it. I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious because this was honestly one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in a Disney theme park. As most of you know, me and Peter both worked at Walt Disney World, and I was in the entertainment department. So on our college program, we were down there for the 40th anniversary, and I got the pleasure to be a part of that celebration. If you do go on YouTube and search Disney World's 40th anniversary, you can see me and you might even be able to see Peter in one of the videos.
Just look for the
Waving.
lunatic in the
Yeah.
background. That's nine
Yeah.
times out of 10. That's me.
But before that, we had to rehearse literally the night before, in the middle of the night, and it was just literally walking down. I was holding a pole, but uh, I walked. It was like probably 4 in the morning. I was walking down Main Street, and I looked behind me, and there was absolutely not a soul on Main Street outside of me. And it literally, I got chills because it's like, how many people could say that they were on Main Street completely alone with not one other person? Like, literally not one other
I tell
person
you,
on it.
I'd pay a hefty amount of money to experience that. Because I mean, like you didn't even
Yeah.
have another cast member. So like even for the normal guest
No.
experience, even if you were the only guest, that doesn't mean you're the only human because there's going to be cast members out. You were the only human.
On me. I mean, there's other people, obviously, the other people that were a part of this celebration as well, but they weren't on Main Street at the
Right.
time. And that was so cool because that will, like, in my mind, I picture, you see pictures of like Walt Disney walking down Main Street as it's being like, that's what it almost kind of felt like. It was really, really, really cool.
You're telling me you felt like Walt Disney then, eh?
No, it's just like, that photo where you see Walt Disney, his hands are in his pocket.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, it reminded me of that.
Well, I like it. I like that. I like both stories. Thank you,
So-
Brooke. Thank you, Dom.
I was
What?
So I was just saying how you might wonder how that relates. Well, no, I was on a ride completely by myself, but but it was similar where I was somewhere completely by myself where that will never happen again. Kind of like Brooke, like the odds of her ever being on her own cart on Indiana Jones in Disneyland will most likely never happen again in her life.
Hey, but she's got that memory now, forever.
Right, and that's great. Thank you for that, Brooke.
All right, Dom. I think we said you're gonna.
And go blue, go
Oh,
blue.
come on now.
But she is. She might not even be a Michigan.
I don't know
fan.
what she is. Brooke, let us know down below in the comments what you are, so we can heavily debate this between me and Dom being the biggest sports fans in the
She's
world.
probably knowing just because I haven't met Brooke. I've heard a lot about her. She's probably a Eastern Michigan Eagles fan.
Probably.
Just
I'd bet that. All right, let's dive into this, Dom. I know if this is one of the few times you're going to hear me. Let's stop this Disney talk.
Yes. And I'm a big Disney fan, but Peter and Sarah did something that I thought Peter would do, never thought Sarah would do, and that is go to Universal Studios Orlando, Florida, home of Universal Studios Orlando.
Yeah, we were graciously given some passes from one of our friends we've made through the YouTube, and we got to go to both Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure this past Saturday. It's a good time.
And so, Peter, kind of what we should do with this episode is kind of, I'll go. I want to say almost where I'll talk about something, a ride or an experience or an area of the park, and give my opinion on it and what I thought of
Yeah.
that. Because I've not that I'm this Universal veteran, but I had an annual pass and I've
Yeah,
visited the
you've got
parks
way
quite a
more
bit.
experience than me. I've just got one day in each, half a day in each.
And I want to know your experience for only going one time, one day.
Perfect.
So that's kind of what I want to
dig
do.
it.
So let's start out. Obviously, you've been to City Walk, so I don't want to get into detail about City Walk, and we had our conversation about that. But as you walked into the park, obviously you've been there for Halloween Horror Nights during the nighttime. But as you walked in the park, I look at it as it reminds me of, the big archways in the building, the colors, even the roofing. It reminds me of like old time Hollywood, a studio, and that's what it was purposed for. That's kind of the vibe I get. It doesn't remind me of any Disney park whatsoever when you first walk in. At least when you first walk in. If you take a right, go down Sunset Boulevard, there's a whole different conversation. But as you walk in, it doesn't remind me anything of Disney whatsoever. What do you
No,
think?
I'd 100% agree because every Disney park has like a leading line, like something that's like drawing you in, building you up to basically some form of icon. And the entrance, we walked into Universal Studios, that entranceway didn't really Like I knew that like to the right was Shrek. I saw a little sign. To the left, Minions. To the straight ahead was Jimmy. But it was like you kind of went down a little bit of like a half city block, and then you could turn towards what did you call it, Sunset Boulevard, or you could go towards that
Correct.
big open area.
No, not no. I totally, but it's not Sunset Boulevard. I'm thinking Hollywood Studios. That is Hollywood
Yeah.
Boulevard.
So I definitely would agree. It's
I
not like
apologize.
any Disney park because Disney is very good about like having that focal point at the point of entry of the park, and Universal didn't have that. But I thought that was fine because like we dove right in. We're not, with the exception of Magic Kingdom, we're ones that kind of like get in there and start going right away. We don't linger too much.
Well, that's a great point too. Is that yes, Universal Studios doesn't have a like all Disney parks. You walk in, and if you look straight ahead in any Disney park, outside of like Animal Kingdom, until you get around that corner, it doesn't have a center focal point in that park. Their center focal point is outside of the park in City Walk, and that is the Universal Ball. So that is not actually inside of the park.
Yeah.
Something interesting. So I'm gonna kind of take a turn to the right, kind of do a big circle because that's what
Hmm.
Universal is. You have Hollywood Boulevard, Rodeo Drive, the Beverly Hills. It kind of has a Hollywood Studios vibe
Yeah.
to
Kind of
it,
like a backdrop.
but in my opinion, I think Universal Studios, and I'll even go towards the New York section when it comes to the building landscaping of different cities, New York, Hollywood. I think Universal Studios did a little bit of a better job than you say Hollywood Studios is at Disney. My opinion. You can
Yeah.
totally
No. No. No.
disagree, especially the New York area.
Are you talking like compared to
Like
Streets of
Streets of
America?
America, well, even Hollywood Boulevard over in Hollywood Studios too. I don't think Disney does a bad job. I just think the Universal streets have more of a real feel to it, whereas I feel like Hollywood Studios and Disney has more of
A
a
set like a backlot.
cartoon, like a cartoonish almost. And I don't even think that's the right term to use, but it feels more real at Universal than it does at
Yeah,
Disney.
I'd agree with that. That it does feel more real in for over the whole scope of it. But the only part I would point out, it's not even a disagreement with you. It's that I don't think Disney was going for that fully at times. Like I think they really did want like
Right.
a
No, for
backdrop,
sure.
a backlot, like a movie set kind of a thing. But you are right. There's a lot of detail. Those are real facades, real buildings with real like shutters and accent points and brick lines. Oh, many of them most of them you can go into are stores or eateries or gift shops, and that is something that Disney didn't do. Like they looked like real buildings, but most of them you can't go in.
Right. And like in because we're kind of on the street, the Beverly Hills section, the Rodeo Drive, a lot of the one thing that I really like, and I don't know the names of the stores, but they have the stores in that section of the park. I don't know if you did go in any of those stores. They're themed. They're themed to that area.
Cool.
That like I don't. What one did you go on? The left or the right?
Um, we took the right street, but then we went into the old. The store was on the left, and it was the old prop store.
Okay, so yes, you got like the perfect the prop like all the old props that were in old ride vehicles that and, animatronics and stuff like that that were used at Universal, and then on the other side they have like old movie posters. It just has I like that they have that. Whereas if you were like on Disney's um, Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard, it's just the outside looks it, but when you walk into those stores, it's just your normal Disney merchandise store where you get the same
Yeah,
merchandise
I
wherever you
get.
go.
Yeah, I get. That is a good point. Um, I like those a lot. I had a lot of fun. We didn't spend too much time. We kind of got into that section last minute because there's not really attractions over there. It is more of like the shopping and stuff. So we were trying to maximize our one day in ride time.
So now, because you skipped out on not a ride, but an attraction show that I really wanted you to do, and that is the horror makeup show. And I think next time you go, that is definitely a must
It
do
is. Sarah
because
really was upset that we didn't do it.
It it is like I've seen it probably 4 or 5 times, and it's different every single time because, dude, I don't want to ruin it for you, but it is absolutely hilarious. It is a little risque, I will be honest. Some of the jokes are more for a mature audience, but it is hilarious. So the first ride you kind of did was E.T., and that was a ride that I told you to go to. Well, in that, no, I'm going in
Okay,
a
okay,
circle. It
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
the
yeah.
first ride you did.
Yeah,
I'm going in a
in that way
circle.
we did do ET first.
Yeah. So there's E.T. right there. And for me, this ride, the reason I love it so much is it is the only classic attraction left at Universal Studios. There's no more Jaws. There's no more King Kong. The original one. They got the new one, but the original King Kong. No more original Jaws. No more King
Where's
Kong.
Jurassic Park?
The
Is that
original one.
Islands?
Yes, that's an Islands of
Oh, okay.
Adventure, but that is not even an because that's not an original ride either
Oh.
because it's an Islands of Adventure.
For some reason I feel like I remember seeing like that Jurassic Park drop. Um,
It was an original ride to that park.
yeah. And how old is Islands of Adventure?
I think it opened in I want to say early 2000, like
Hmm.
early 2000s.
Okay. ET.
I think it
I loved
opened. I
ET.
think So I thought ET to me is one. I love the class. I like old rides. I like that because it brings me back to my
Yeah.
childhood. But it is a very weird ride. Like it is weird.
Yeah.
But that's what I love
The only
about
thing
it.
I didn't like is the queue beforehand and like the waiting rooms beforehand. They were so 90s. Like I'm okay with the attraction being super old. I love that. I actually want that. But that queue man was killing me.
That's what I love about it. Though. Like
Let's
I
stand in a
love.
Six Flags line with nothing going on around me, and then go into a room standing in a bigger, wider line with nothing going on.
I'm a '90s lover. I love the awkward Steven Spielberg
That
video
was
you
good.
watch
That was
before you
good.
go.
Yeah.
It's so bad that
Yeah.
it's good. And did you? Because we talked about last time
Yeah.
smells, and they did take it away. Did it have a distinct smell inside of that queue?
It did, but it wasn't strong.
Yeah, because they got rid of it, once they redid it. They got rid of
But
that.
it did.
The strong
It
smell.
did. Had a little sniffy sniff
So
going on.
so you enjoyed it. What were Sarah's thoughts on that ride?
She really liked it too. We both were kind of talking about after you do the Steven Spielberg, when you're actually in the forest, that queue was awesome. Like the big trees, like the big sequoias or whatever, was cool. And then
That's the one with the
yeah,
smell.
and then
Yeah.
we talked about like when it got to ET's home planet, like how they had the water spraying and stuff, and the ride mechanism we both liked a lot. Like Sarah thought it was cool that you were like on the bike.
Right. Very cool. So I'm glad you enjoyed that ride. Now, did you do The Simpsons? Okay, good. I honestly would not recommend that ride, but that's me. So you did do Men in
Yeah.
Black.
It was a weird thing.
To to me, I think the thing I like this ride better than Toy Story Mania and Buzz Lightyear over at Disney. I like it because I like the openness of it. Where it is it like going through the ride, it makes you feel like you actually are going through alleys and whatnot throughout a city. And I like that part of it. I like the guns. I like that you can take the guns out of the holster and shoot, unlike Buzz Lightyear where it is connected to the ride vehicle. And I don't know. I like the inside of the ride just better than any of the other ones. And I find it funner. What are your thoughts?
I think I can't give a true statement on this ride until I go back and do it maybe a couple more times or at least one more time. My problem was like I think it's super cool how you can affect the other team, but what
Yes.
ended up happening was whether the person was super good or whatever the reason it was, somebody was out to get our car. So like pretty much the entire ride we were constantly spinning. And so like that took it a notch down for me just by experience. But if I'm looking at it like holistically as like what I saw as like the attraction and getting ready for it, the interactiveness getting into the ride, the guns, the targets, I think it would be a lot more fun. I'd have to give it a few good runs before I could truly compare it to how I feel about against Toy Story or Buzz, because those are classics to me.
Right.
I like the targets that they're harder to hit on the aliens, and but I'd have to go through it and just hope that the other team doesn't keep spinning us. Because I kid you not, when at least 60% of the attraction we were just spinning. They just kept
Right.
nailing us. Because if I don't know if for anybody who hasn't been on this ride, you're in a car of 6. You have a sensor on the very top center of your vehicle, and if you're going on the same time as another team, another car, and if your sensor of your car gets shot, you spin like 2 or 3 times, and then you keep going. And somebody just kept shooting our car. But theming wise was amazing. It felt so big, like you said, it opened.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's very open.
Cool looking, cool use of audio animatronics, big ones, little ones. I just love Men in Black, so I loved the feeling like I was in the movie. I loved the queue, even though we didn't wait long, so we kind of walked through a lot of it. But I felt like I was in the MIB base. It was awesome.
And I think that's something that Universal does very well. And I kind of texted you that, is I think their queues are very...
Yeah, we can debate that later, because I think they're like 50-50. I think they're either spot on or I despise them.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not all of them, but a lot of them. And I definitely now, since Harry Potter, it for sure has been. I want to backtrack just before you go there. Is obviously, I know you didn't go on The Simpsons, but I assume you walked through the land area.
Yeah, and we
it.
walked
What did you
through
think
that
of that?
today, and then I went through that. That was open during HHN last year, like in October when I went.
Yeah.
I think the area's cool. I think it's cool. You can go to Moe's. They got some statues. I think that's really cool. I don't know if it's in the vlog, but I remember telling Sarah, like, if you're a Simpsons fan, like, this is super cool. Like, I'm not the biggest Simpsons fan.
I'm not at all.
I've only seen probably 20 episodes, and for a 26-year-old in America, that's not a lot over my lifespan. I've played the video games when I was younger and stuff like that, but I'm not a devout Simpsons fan, but I still appreciated it. Like, you could really go into Moe's, and that's where we spent some time in there during Halloween Horror Nights. But the whole theme area, I liked. Krusty Land looked cool, but we just didn't have time to go on it this time.
Awesome. Great. So now let's get into the area. Well, actually, no. I want to wait. I want to hold off
Okay.
on that. Let's go to New York. Obviously, we talked about, the Hollywood side. Now, I like the theming of, the buildings look real. And they are real buildings. I like how they have I think it's a perfect place to have a Starbucks right on the corner. I think the pizza shop, perfect New York pizza. And then even the Irish restaurant, which is, that's New York Irish. It's very cool, and I like that. And obviously the one ride that is in that area is Transformers.
Yeah.
Now, for this ride, I think it is a very cool ride. I think technologically, it is very advanced, and I think it's a very nicely done ride.
I agree with that.
It makes me a little wheezy, though. I'll be honest.
I could see that, but I was surprised at how it didn't.
Not wheezy. Did it make
No,
you
it didn't.
wheezy?
And I get very wheezy on Star Tours, and I get very wheezy on Mission Space. So I thought it would, but it didn't. I really enjoyed Transformers a lot. I thought it was a really cool. They had a really good mix of how they utilized real life objects and sets and the simulators.
Awesome. And now also with Jimmy Fallon. This ride, thought the queue was awesome. I haven't been so much lately just because I have to wake up early, but I am an avid late night talk show guy. I used to watch a ton. I've been to Jimmy Kimmel Live. I watched a lot of Jimmy Fallon. I used to love Conan in high school. I love it. I like James Corden. I love it all. And I thought the queue in the building was very nicely done. I liked how you could see it kind of was like a little bit of a museum a little bit, and that was super cool. The ride itself, honestly, I thought it was a waste of a ride, if you want me to be completely honest. You haven't been on Despicable Me. It's very similar. And I don't like the fact that Jimmy Fallon is in a ride vehicle, riding a thing, and you're sitting in almost a movie theater seat. I think that takes away from the immersiveness of the ride. And essentially, you're just sitting in a seat, and it moves you up and down. Quite honestly, makes you kind of sick. I wouldn't run to it. Could I, if I was with people and they wanted to do it really bad, I would do it again. But if I was there by myself, I would walk in and look at the queue. Wouldn't necessarily go on the ride.
Well, and I think that was the first attraction I believe that used in a virtual line for Universal.
Yeah.
And we used that. I got in the virtual line when we waited 30 minutes for Transformers, and I looked on the Universal app and was able to get us a time on the virtual line right after what we thought we would be leaving Transformers, and it worked out perfectly. We walked straight up, walked straight into the queue to start doing it. I would do it again if I did a virtual line. I almost didn't get enough time in the queue, like in the first floor. It's like a museum. I didn't get enough time in there to look at everything, and the second. We didn't see the ragtime. What's their name? Ragtime gals.
The guy,
Yeah.
the guys, the singers. Yeah, I didn't see them
Yeah.
either, but I've seen them on video.
Right, and so we didn't get to experience that, which I would like to. My thing,
I didn't see the panda.
I saw the
either.
panda. He was a goofy dude. But I definitely agree about the ride. That especially like I would have agreed with you before I did this, but after you go on something like Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom, that really to know that it can be done. I would have liked that ride tenfold if I was sitting in an individual car or sitting on like a straddling motorcycle thing. They made it look like I was on one of the city sters or whatever he was calling them that he was flying around New York in. If I felt like I was on it and I wasn't sitting in a row of 30 people, it would have been a totally different experience. But the ride attraction, the ride mechanism is what ruined it for me. I still
I
had a good
agree.
time and I
And-
will do it again. I just think they could have done that a lot better.
Well, when they were building it, they said they kept on comparing it to this is going to be Universal Soarin'.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's a big screen like Soarin', but outside of that, nothing even can be compared to Soarin'.
No. Because you're
At
actually
all.
sitting on a glider, which is what you're doing in Soarin'. You're on a glider.
Right.
They're not trying to paint a picture that I'm in a one-seated supercar following Jimmy Fallon, but in reality, I'm sitting in a row of 30 people with 10 other rows around me.
Yeah, it reminded me of like Philhar Magic.
Yeah.
But like, it's kind of what it reminded me of. I thought it was I think they could have done something better. I mean, I'm not saying I don't like the Jimmy Fallon aspect of it, but they could have made the ride different, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Now the last ride we'll go in until we go over to Harry Potter at Universal Studios. It's a ride that we went on together, and that is Rip Ride Rocket. You've been on it before, not when you just went. Now this ride used to be a great ride for me. I used to love it, but now I don't know if it's because I'm getting a little older. Not that I'm old, I'm still young, but it hurt my brain a lot when I went on it recently.
And I'll agree, Dom, and I wouldn't say we're getting old, but we are getting older. Sarah and I both experienced this before, something that we've never experienced before. We both felt like we were about to black out, and I know like that's a thing for people
Yeah.
to do sometimes, and it's like it's not a serious thing for a lot of people. It's to like they black out for like a second on a roller coaster, but I've never experienced it. I went to Six Flags probably almost 20 times growing up in Chicago. So I'd go on roller coasters all the time, all summer long. I would. I still enjoyed it, but I did feel it a couple times. I was like, "Whoa, this is intense." I love the idea of it. I love that big flip around drop that you do.
No, it's not a smooth ride. So that's just my opinion on it. And one other ride, real quick, I'm just going to touch on. I wasn't going to just because you didn't go on it this time, so Sarah didn't get to experience it. But the Mummy, which you've been on before, and it was a long time ago when you went on it. That
It is
is,
so good.
I would have to say, top two favorite rides at Universal Studios.
Yeah, it's I remember it. I mean, that was 2011 when I went in it, and I still remember how good it was. I remember leaving like, crap. If this is how all of Universal is, I'm in trouble because I've been a Universal hater my whole life.
Right. And I love Rock and Roller Coaster, and I would say that's the comparison, if you had to compare it. I go back and forth what one I like better. Because they're both great similar rides. Not theming, but ride-wise they are. But kind of now the big thing is Harry Potter. Now, the Universal Studios side to Harry Potter for me is by far the better route. I think I think what happened was when Universal made
Diagon Alley, the other one.
um, no, not Diagon Alley, the um,
Hogsmeade.
Hogsmeade, yeah, Hogsmeade. I think they did a good job on it, but I think they could have done a lot better after seeing what they did with Diagon Alley. Because if you go to Hogsmeade now, like if you're like you've never been to either, right?
Neither.
And you saw Hogsmeade first, or I mean Diagon Alley first, and then when you went into Hogsmeade, you're like kind of underwhelmed a little bit. That's how good Diagon Alley is. I think it's. I personally think it's one of the most. And we kind of had a little bit of an argument on the phone. I think Diagon Alley is the most because I haven't been to Avatar Land, so I can't speak on that. But I have been to Cars Land, which has also been compared as one of the most immersive. I think Diagon Alley is the most immersive, whether you like Harry Potter or not, theme park lands in any theme park in the world that I've been to. And I would at least say in the United States. I haven't been to like Tokyo Sea, and I've heard that's pretty darn immersive. I haven't done all that. But I'm just gonna go on saying in the world. Uh, you don't even have to like Harry Potter. I think it's just you're so enclosed you forget you're at Universal
Yeah,
Studios.
I think that is. We don't have to go into because we could do a whole podcast debating this, but I will point. I just want to point that out as something that really helps them is how enclosed you are. Though you're in Diagon Alley, those buildings go really high. A lot of the alleyways are narrow, so you don't see the outside world. You don't hear the outside world. All you see is the theming around you. So it's done very, very well. I think that's a big comparison, a big difference between, say, Cars Land and Disneyland and theirs, because Cars Land's open. You have a better chance of seeing a building or a plane or something else going on in the world. But when you're in Diagon Alley, there's not much left to it. Even I think half of it has a cover, like it's almost like the main street of Tokyo Disney, how it's covered
Right.
for when it snows. There's a cover on half of Diagon Alley even.
The right side.
Yeah, the
of
right
it.
side of it, where you can go get the butterbeer, and when you get out of, like near where you get out of Gringotts.
Now for the ride itself, Gringotts, I think the queue is
Oh,
unbelievable.
the queue is
It
amazing.
looks. I mean, if you look at the facade of it, it looks very small, but the space is huge, which I think is another like. I mean, you go through the bank and then you go down into the caves and the elevator. It is one of the best queues in this. I think you would have to agree with me. Any theme park.
It's
Anywhere.
one of the best. Yeah,
mean, that-
I 100% agree.
That queue is
That
unreal.
winding staircase.
The ride.
Come on.
Oh,
And then the
right.
opening into
And-
the ride, and I remember Sarah specifically because we went up the winding staircase into the loading spot where you get into the carts, and I said, "Oh my!" I was like, "Literally, this is one of the most beautiful things I've seen in a theme park." And Sarah stopped me right there in my tracks and warned me like, the rest of Universal's not like this, because I looked at her and I said, if this. Because the whole time I'm like, does this beat Studios or Animal Kingdom for me? Because I knew it would not beat Epcot, and I knew it would not beat Magic Kingdom to me. That's my prejudices. That's my inherent love. It wasn't going to. But I thought there would be a chance that it could probably beat Studios, Hollywood Studios, or Animal Kingdom. And right then and there, I told Sarah, I said, if the rest of the park is like this, if the rest of today, because Dom was going in a circle around Universal Studios, but this was the first thing we went to. We got in and went straight to Gringotts. So we rushed almost straight through there, walked right past New York, pretty much walked past Diagon, like walked through Diagon real quick to get in line. I told Sarah when we were sitting there in this cave waiting to get on this cart, if the rest of it is like this or even a fraction of this, Disney's in trouble. And Sarah was right, and I don't think you won't fully disagree that if you compare Diagon Alley to the rest of Universal, it's apples and oranges. They're not alike. They're not the same.
Before we get into the ride, I just want to add to that. I think it's hard to do I think Universal Studios right now is better than Hollywood Studios? Yeah, I do. Do I think it will be in the future? No. Do I think it's better than Animal Kingdom? I don't think you can compare the two.
Okay.
to Universal and Animal
Yeah.
Kingdom, because they're just not similar. But Diagon Alley, yeah. Do I think Disney's in trouble? I will say yes, only due to the fact if Disney didn't think they were in a little bit of trouble, they wouldn't be doing all the stuff that they're doing now. Because they know, I mean, this is a whole nother episode too, is that Harry Potter has taken, not a ton, but I mean, has taken away business from Disney. It has taken people from, say, a 7-day Disney vacation to a 6-day Disney vacation with a 1 day at
Yeah, I'd
Universal.
agree with
And I
that.
think even with the stuff being announced that Universal's, probably gonna build a true, not a water park, but a true third theme park. I think that theme park is going to be highly themed, the whole entire park, the way Diagon Alley is. Because I don't think they have a choice because they set that standard. The whole other park of Universal, I don't think they can turn it into the way Diagon Alley is just because of how the park's set up. They have to just do big rides and theme those rides inside the park. They can't do the whole. You would be changing the whole entire park. But I think with the third park, whether it's rumors of Nintendo,
Lord of the Rings.
more Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, I think that whole park will be as themed as Harry Potter, as Avatar Land, and then, you know, Star Wars coming to Disney. It's gonna be nuts, and it's good for theme park fans like us.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And side note, real quick, I found out that the Star Wars hotel that's getting put up is going to be next to Galaxy's Edge outside of Hollywood Studios. So it'll be like DCA with
California,
Grand Californian, where you'll have
yeah.
an straight from resort to park entrance.
And another side note, and I thought that would probably happen. If you don't think Universal is, after Disney announcing a Star Wars themed hotel, and I'm sure it's been in the talks for years, if you don't think at some point, it could be 10 years from now, I don't know, I think it'll be sooner, won't have a Harry Potter themed Hogwarts Castle hotel, you're crazy. It's going to happen. It will. How could it
Well,
not?
I wouldn't say Hogwarts themed, but I'd say Harry Potter themed because they could do a couple other buildings that are in the Harry Potter universe. And I know you're not as well
Right.
versed in the Harry Potter universe as
Right.
myself
It
or
can't-
even
it
Sarah
can't just-
or our friends.
I'm
But I could see that
Right.
for sure.
I'm saying it wouldn't be like, say, an Art of Animation where we have a hotel building that's themed Harry Potter. It would be surrounded off of a part of
That
a
would
movie,
the
is
only
what I mean.
thing that I have to say about that is it'd be super interesting because Universal doesn't manage their hotels. Lowe's
Lowe's
does,
does.
and I don't know if Lowe's would want to make the commitment to kind of put on the show as much like that, but that doesn't mean that Universal won't hike up their drawers and go, let's manage this hotel ourselves so we can put on the show the whole time.
It would. I think if you had a Harry Potter themed hotel, as excited as people are about the Star Wars hotel, and the theming of it, like, you're truly gonna be in there and you're gonna be one of the characters. I know that's what they're talking
Yeah,
about.
they don't want you.
I-
Last people I was talking to in articles I was reading is they don't even want people to go to the other parks. To them to get a full experience of the Star Wars, you'd say come for like a 3-day period.
Right.
You'd go into that resort and go straight from the resort to Galaxy's Edge and back.
Right.
But that's
Well, I think a Harry Potter hotel
Oh.
would do even better than a Star Wars one. Just my opinion. Just
I think
because
generationally,
in Harry Potter,
yeah, I think it could.
because
Harry Potter is more has a broader reach right now than Star Wars.
I do. So, anyways, that we should make that an episode coming up soon because we could go on
Yeah.
for hours about that. But the ride, Gringotts itself, 10 minutes
Oh my
later.
god, it was
I think-
incredible. It was my first experience. Dom has warned me for years about how Universal is very simulator friendly, and that was cool because it was my first experience with that. I have a couple of things. I loved it. I really, really loved it. It was an amazing experience, and I think, like I said, if they did the rest of if they stripped away the entire Universal Studios Orlando and redid it as the same caliber, the world would be in trouble. Story wise, though, I've got issues with the story of the Gringotts ride because it doesn't 100% mesh with what happened in the books. But
Right.
ride sequence, ride mechanism, beautiful and amazing and really, really game changing.
The one thing I see now, because we'll talk about it, I think Forbidden Journey is the better ride,
So do
personally.
I.
I thought Green Gots. I think it's a very good ride. I don't even know that I would say it's my top three favorite rides at Universal Studios. I think it's definitely very kid friendly. It's not that intense at all. The thing I would, if I could change something about it, is I don't like. I like that it's a roller coaster aspect, because a lot of the Universal simulators aren't. But I wish it would be roller coaster and do the simulators if you want, but don't have us go on a 5 second roller coaster ride and then just stop and stare at a screen for a good 20
Yeah.
seconds. I'd rather it be driving past the screen, seeing the screen, rather than have a stop, stare at the screen, keep on going, stop, stare at you get what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
get you.
That was my only fault with it, and where we'll get more into Forbidden Journey because I don't want to ruin that. So that's my complaint about that ride.
Cool. I loved Diagon Alley overall. Sarah and I started the day there, just did Green Gots, kind of snuck into a couple of the stores there, and then went and did the rest of Universal. And then we came back to take the Hogwarts Express over to Islands of Adventure, knowing that we would come back to Universal to really get into the nitty gritty of Diagon Alley.
Awesome. So, what did you think of the Hogwarts Express and that whole experience?
Um, I really liked it, especially we waited a long time for it, probably 40 minutes. I wish that little shop you went through had more than just apple juice and beer. But I really liked once you went up the stairs towards at King's Cross. I really enjoyed it once you got upstairs. That whole
Yeah.
opening, it's literally shot for shot, angle for angle, the movie. So that was really cool. Hogwarts Express was a lot of fun. I liked the screen and the simulation of it. I think that it was advanced for when it was built. I think it slowly is. I think it in the next couple of years will probably be a little obsolete looking compared to some of the other simulators that Universal is developing. But I like the whole experience. It's really cool for someone who loves Harry Potter. I've been to all I want to say probably five of the book releases at midnight and seen all the movies multiple times. I'm a big fan, so it was a really cool experience to go in there. I wish it would have been like just me and Sarah. We went with six strangers, which was fine for us, but it would have been cool to experience that. Just like freak out. I had to sit there all like I'm a normal human being. I can't jump around like a little boy, but I wanted to.
Right. For sure. Now, Hogsmeade. It's obviously a little town, a little village. It's got the winter feel to it, the snow. One thing a lot of people have issues with, and you kind of mentioned it to me, is that Ollivanders is there and also in Diagon Alley. I think
Can
that
I
was
spit my issues with it and then we'll go into it? Because I want
no,
I
yeah,
want
go
to talk
for it.
about because I was still a mostly positive experience, but here's what I have. It definitely was an effect that I went to Diagon Alley first and then went to Hogsmeade. But here's my big issues, and Dom just mentioned the one. I don't like how there's an Ollivanders at Hogsmeade because it's not there. It's at Diagon Alley. And then when they opened up Diagon Alley, like Sarah was under the impression because she went to Hogsmeade back when it opened up years ago, and so she thought they actually would have closed it. So we were like, oh, what's going to be there instead? But it's still there. So you still have two Ollivanders, which I get for a business aspect of it in real life, but I don't like for story. And then the other thing is I like the winter feel, but it breaks the story for me. In Diagon Alley, it could be 95 degrees in Florida, and I'm in Diagon Alley, and that's okay because I'm in Diagon Alley. But when I'm sitting there sweltering in 95, 100-degree weather and I'm looking at snow, that breaks the look for me. And the last thing is they waste like a whole side of Hogsmeade to just the wand interaction. And I know I get it when Wizarding World just opened up, Hogsmeade opened up first, and that wand, the magical wand you could buy and do interactive things with was like a big selling point, a super cool newest thing, newest tech in theme parks. So I get that, but half of Hogsmeade is dedicated to just waving your wand at objects. Three broomsticks and a candy store is on one side, with the rest of it being interactive, and the other side is a big Ollivanders that shouldn't be there, and then lockers. And I think there's one store on that side. But that's it. Like, there's not
Correct.
much to it, especially like we didn't buy the wands that trip. We may do them later. But if we weren't doing the wands, there's not much to do in Hogsmeade. We ate up three broomsticks, which was delicious. And then we had Forbidden Journey, which was one of my top three favorite rides in my life.
Yes, that You said top
Yeah.
three. Can I just ask which ahead of it?
Well, I say top three because I don't know 100% what is where anymore. Flight of Passage is top three, and Space Mountain's top three. Space Mountain's like is ingrained in my DNA because I love it. Flight of Passage because it's a game changer in theming and in immersiveness. How I put it to Sarah, now the time will tell by the when I go on the attractions more. I got more of an emotional connection and experience of immersiveness to Flight of Passage and Animal Kingdom. But me being a geeky guy and I love analytics and I used to want to be an engineer, so I still appreciate that on that level of planning and Imagineering. I was blown away by Flight of Passage because it's basically a Jeep or like a dinosaur mechanism with a robotic arm attached to the top of it that's GPSed around this area while it's flipping you around. Like it's a
Right.
mechanical feat.
Right. For Forbidden Journey, one, I think the queue is unbelievable. You feel like you are inside Hogwarts Castle. I like the talking picture frames, the Sorting Hat. The ride vehicle is like nothing in any theme park anywhere. I'm okay with the screens in that ride because it's not as many as others and it has the real life feel to it with, um, the spiders and stuff like that, the dragon and
Dementors.
the mentors. Yeah. So and the mentors part used to really creep me out when I
I
first
had
went
no
on
idea
that
that was
ride.
happening, and I legitimately got scared because Sarah and I did a single rider for
Yeah.
that ride because it was a 60 or 70 minute wait. So we did single rider, waited 15 minutes. So I wasn't even with Sarah when I went on it, and I legitimately got scared twice during my first time on it.
So before going on that ride, what did you think it was? Like, was a ride vehicle like you thought it was, or like what did you kind of think?
After going on all of like Universal Studios, I thought it would be something similar to Gringotts or something like Jimmy Fallon, where but like a six seater. Like I thought it'd be a six or an eight seater, but kind of simulator like Gringotts or Transformers. So the fact that you were like in a suspended seat getting flipped around was just unexpected and mind blowing. I loved
Huh.
it,
So
and we got to go on it back to back
I
because our ride stopped for about 10 to 15 seconds. So, and I didn't think it was a big deal, but I understand where they're coming from. So they were like, "Oh, if you want, hop right back on." So they let us go right back on.
awesome. So we got three more rides. Kind of move through this quickly because I feel like we've been talking for a
We're at
long
about
time.
50 minutes right now.
Okay, so we'll move quick. Jurassic Park. It is Universal's version of Splash Mountain. It is a water ride. It's not necessarily the greatest theme ride, but it's something to cool off, kind of take a break from everything else. It's not something I necessarily wait for, but if it had no wait, I would go on it if I didn't mind
Yeah,
getting
we
wet.
did single rider. It was a 30-minute wait. We did single rider. There was nobody in single rider. We walked right on and got to sit next to each other. So that was awesome. I think this ride, I was a big Jurassic Park geek growing up. Like I had books on books on books. I love Jurassic Park. And so obviously I was let down a little bit by the attraction. I loved the drop, but
It's a
it's a
big
big
one,
one.
and the dinosaur at the end is actually really scary.
Yes, but there was an issue. They don't want cameras, and Universal's strict on that. There were two people with cameras up, not me, but two people. And literally, as the dinosaur's coming towards us, there was a guy over the speakerphone going, "You in row three, you in row three, camera down, row three, camera down, row three. You in row two, get the camera down." So like, I get like safety, but at the same time, I was like more worried about the guy at the camera in row two than the dinosaur coming towards me. But the rest of the attraction, like the beginning part, you just could go through two rooms. I felt kind of lackluster, kind of like Ellen's Energy at Epcot before it
I've never
closed. Well,
done that.
before it closed, you kind of just went into two rooms and watched a long video. I felt like that was this. You went into two or three areas kind of quickly and then did a big drop. I loved the big drop. It was cool, and I agree. If it
Yeah.
was a hot day and the line wasn't long, I would go on it again. But it's not more
Right.
to say that it's Disney or Universal Splash. The only comparison between those two is that they both have a water
It's
drop.
a-
Everything
right.
else is
Well,
100% different.
but I will say the land of Jurassic Park I actually do like. It does remind me very much of Animal Kingdom. Kind of has a feel to it, and I like the little hang glider things. When went in high school, I wanted to do that, but you have to be a little kid to be on that, unless you have a little kid with you, because you can go on. It just seems like something fun. Next, we have Spider-Man in Marvel Island. This ride, I told you from the get-go, is identical to Transformers. So it just basically comes down to, do you like Transformers theming better or Spider-Man
Well, and I would
theming
say
better?
that Spider-Man, I felt like didn't have as much physical set to it in between your simulators as Transformers did.
See, I've only done Transformers once. I don't remember it a whole lot.
Sarah,
Um,
here's what I'll say: is Sarah liked Spider-Man, I liked Transformers.
I think I like Spider-Man. But I like Spider-Man theming, but I don't know. I would have to do them both again.
Right.
We didn't either when we just
Mm,
went because it makes me a little sick. And then we're gonna do Transformers and it closed down.
gotcha,
So,
gotcha. What's the last ride? Oh, the Hulk.
and lastly is the Hulk. And again, my opinion is they just redid this whole. I believe it's a brand new track
No, I
completely.
think they just added. There's some of it that's original. Then they extended and added.
Okay. Well, either way, this ride gives me that I thought Rip Ride Rocket makes my head hurt. This ride makes my head hurt too. Uh, one thing, actually, I thought the two best roller coasters at Universal was the Dueling Dragons, but they just got rid of those to make room for another Harry Potter
Hmm.
ride. But the Hulk is not a smooth roller coaster whatsoever.
I love the blast off though. The first blast off out of the tube. I loved that.
Yes.
And there were some corkscrews in there that I really liked, but once again, I think I'm getting old. I felt like I was going to black out it a few times, but the theming of it was really cool. I liked the queue. I'm a big Hulk fan, so I enjoyed the videos in the queue, and then the sequence of getting in there and getting blasted by the gamma rays to turn into a Hulk yourself, and then you go blast off. You go Hulk smash it, and you go. I really enjoyed it. We did single liner for that, and we waited maybe 20 minutes.
Right. Now, I just went to Cedar Point this past October, and going there, did I get a little nauseous on the roller coasters? Yeah, for sure, but I never really felt like in pain. And on both of the big roller coasters at Universal, it's not necessarily the nauseousness that bothers me. It legit hurts your head. It moves you around like
There's a
crazy,
ride called the
and that's my
Viper.
biggest issue.
The Viper, or no, Venom, no Viper. It's the Viper at Six Flags Great America, north side of Chicago, and that does it. You do literally, it's got pads on the left and right side of your head to hold your head straight, but they're just far enough away, and they're not soft pads. They're like rock hard, so you end up like smashing your
Yeah,
head against the things that are supposed to hold your head straight.
awesome. So Peter, real quick, last
Okay.
thing, kind of just want your consensus on the two parks. What are like overall? What did you think of the two parks?
Overall, I really enjoyed both. I really liked how Universal Studios more because we pointed out Sarah and I actually got to do soft open for Fast and Furious
Yes.
Supercharged. If I don't have to wait 30 minutes, I'll go on it again. But it was just like what I didn't go on Kong yet, but it's literally the exact same thing as Kong, and it was super super short. It was maybe like 40 seconds long. But overall, Universal Studios wins between the two, hands down. I really enjoyed Universal Studios. I really enjoyed Islands of Adventure. There were some pieces of it we didn't actually end up going through Seuss Landing, and the other one where there's a Poseidon ride. We didn't walk through those lands.
Yeah.
I have a weird feeling about the whole like superhero area of Islands of Adventure because of legalities between two companies that were exchanging intellectual properties of a lot of those superheroes. But I loved the roller coasters. I really liked Universal Studios a lot. I really did.
Yeah,
I
I did
loved
too.
Forbidden Journey, and I loved Three Broomsticks, even though it was expensive. But I had a great time. If anything, like me and Sarah knew we were going to get our annual passes, but like when we moved down here, we'd get them. I know it's been 9 months and we still haven't got them yet, but there's reasons for that. But if anything, this gave us more reason to get them. Sarah had a good time. I had a good time. I can't wait to come back and explore. I don't think I'll have the same feeling about like I can sit in any of the four Disney parks and just kind of hang out. I probably couldn't do that in Islands. I might be able to do that in studios, but only time will tell. Overall, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think you, like you said, I think for sure in studios, it just has that like nostalgic feel to the
Mhm.
park. I don't know how to explain it. You kind of have to go there to understand.
We'll talk in a different podcast because I need to talk to you outside of the podcast and do some experimenting myself. But the food and beverage options overall between the two parks, I felt weren't
mainly the same.
were the same. But I also were like, if we compared Universal to other theme parks, not just Disney but other theme parks, I feel like they're really lacking. But I
You
don't
wanna know why? It's because their City Walk is so close, and they just revamped all
Yeah.
City Walk. They want people to go out to the park and go to. I mean, that's why there's really not a lot of like truly sit down restaurants in either parks, and it's because it's all at
Yeah,
City Walk.
and I get that, but it was just I was surprised, but I loved it.
Right.
Can't wait to go back.
So I'm glad you had a great time. I had a great time doing this episode. Like I said, you can go email us at parkhopperpodcast@gmail.com to send us your theme park testimonials. You can go follow Peter and Sarah Brookhart at the Brookhart Project on YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter. You can go follow myself and my girlfriend Victoria at Domovic on YouTube and Domovic Eats Detroit on Instagram. Like I said, my name is Dominic Evco. You are Peter Brookhart, and this is the Park Hopper Podcast.